God respecting his own boundaries. In addition to our respecting God's boundaries and his respecting ours, he is a good model for how we should respect our own property. God is the ultimate responsibility taker. If someone else causes him pain, he takes responsibility for it. If we continue to abuse him, he is not uh, masochistic. He will take care of himself. And for our own sakes, we do not want to suffer the consequences of his boundaries. The parable of the wedding banquet shows us God taking responsibility. Matthew 22, verses 1 through 14. A king who was planning a banquet invited many people to come. When they said no, he pleaded with them. They continued to say no and went about their own business. Finally, the king had enough. Taking responsibility for the situation, he said to his servants, the wedding banquet is ready, but those I invited did not deserve to come. So go to the street corner, and invite to the banquet anyone you find. Verses 8 through 9. Whenever God decides that enough is enough and he has suffered long enough, he respects his own property, his heart, enough to do something to make it better. He takes responsibility for the pain and makes moves to make his life different. He lets go of the rejecting people and reaches out to some new friends. God is a good model. When we are hurting, we need to take responsibility for the hurt and make some appropriate moves to make things better. This may mean letting go of someone and finding new friends. It may mean forgiving someone and letting them off the hook so we can feel better. A real relationship. We started this chapter talking about relationship. Relationship is what the gospel is about. It is a gospel of reconciliation. Romans 5, verse 11, and Colossians 1, verses 19 to 20. This gospel brings hostile parties together. Colossians 1, verse 21. And heals relationships between God and humanity and between people. The gospel brings things back to their created order, the truth and order of God. In terms of relationship, we think that God's order of relationship is himself and the way he works. And that is why we think boundaries are so important, because he has them and we are to be redeemed into his image. Boundaries are inherent in any relationship God has created, for they define the two parties who are loving each other. In this sense, boundaries between us and God are very important. They are not to do away with the fundamental oneness or unity that we have with him. John 17, verse 20 to 23. But they are to define the two parties in unity. There is no unity without distinct identities, and boundaries define the distinct identities involved. We need to know more. We need to know these boundaries between God and us. Boundaries help us to be the best we can be in God's image. They let us see God as he really is. They enable us to negotiate life, fulfilling our responsibility and requirements. If we are trying to do God's work for him, we will fail. If we are wishing for him to do our work for us, he will refuse. But if we do our work and God does his, we will find strength in a real relationship with our Creator.